If you're planning on building a PC in 2026 or even upgrading just your laptop, stop what you're doing. I have some terrible news. We might just be looking at the absolute end to budget PC building as we know it. On December 3rd, 2025, Micron Technology dropped a bomb on the tech industry. After nearly 30 years, they are effectively killing off the Crucial brand. No more Crucial SSDs, no more standard desktop memory, and we are winding down the consumer division entirely. Why? 2 letters. AI. Micron decided that selling memory to you and me isn't worth the silicon it's printed on anymore. They're pivoting the entire manufacturing capacity, every single wafer, to feed the insatiable hunger of AI data centers. The worst part? This leaves the entire global consumer market with only 2 major manufacturers. We're staring down the barrel of a duopoly. Skyrocketing prices and a shortage experts are already calling Ramageddon. If you thought the GPU shortage of 2020 was bad, you haven't seen anything yet. I'm going to break down why your next PC is about to get twice as expensive and why the RAM crisis is just getting started. Let's look at the facts. We've heard rumors for months, but an official statement makes it clear. Micron is exiting the consumer business globally. That means in just a few months, shipments stop, warranties will be honored, sure, but the stock on the shelves at Amazon or Newegg is gone. It's gone forever. Micron's leadership was pretty blunt about it. They stated that AI-driven growth in the data center has led to a surge in demand for memory and storage that far outpaces consumer profitability. Translation? AI companies like OpenAI, Google, and Meta have deeper pockets than gamers. Micron is looking at their production lines and realizing that every wafer of silicon that they turn into a stick of DDR5 for gaming PCs is a wafer they didn't turn into high bandwidth memory or HBM for NVIDIA AI chips. The profit margins on enterprise AI memory are massive. The margins on consumer RAM? Razor thin. So from a business perspective, Micron's stock is soaring. Investors are popping champagne, but for the DIY enthusiast, it's a funeral. And this leads us to the biggest problem. Market consolidation. And to explain this properly, I need to go over here for a second. Alright, imagine that this dartboard represents the global supply of RAM, the big 3, Samsung, SK Hynix, and Micron. They make up the entire board. For the last decade, buying RAM was easy. You throw a dart at the market, and you hit something. Maybe hit Samsung, Hynix, or Micron. It doesn't really matter. The board was huge, and the targets are everywhere. And because there were 3 big players, the game was fair. If you missed one, you hit another. But here's what just happened. Micron didn't just leave the game. They took their entire section of the board with them. Now let's throw that same dart. See that? Your dart lands here now. You don't get cheap DDR5. You get nothing. The capacity is gone. It is reserved for NVIDIA, and it is effectively a dead zone for customers. So now you have to aim for the 2 remaining sections, Samsung and SK Hynix. But reports confirm they are shrinking their customer sections too. The target area for affordable RAM just got 40% smaller. And when the target gets smaller, it's much harder to hit and way more expensive to play. So we have 1 player leaving the table entirely, and 2 other players ignoring the table to focus on the VIP section. This removes almost all competitive pressure on pricing. If Samsung decides to raise RAM prices 40% tomorrow, where are you going to buy from? You don't have a choice anymore. To understand why this shortage is going to be physically painful for the market, we have to talk about the physics of silicon manufacturing. You can't just make more factories overnight. A semiconductor fab takes 3 to 5 years to build and costs billions of dollars. The global supply of wafers is finite. Right now, AI is running on these massive server farms. The servers use specialized memory called HBM memory. HBM eats up massive amounts of physical space on a silicon wafer. It takes much longer and is much more complex to build than standard PC RAM. So every time a manufacturer decides to build an HBM chip for AI, they are physically sacrificing the space that they could have produced 10 or 20 standard consumer chips. This is a zero-sum game. When you combine the demand with Micron leaving the consumer space, we are left with a simple supply and demand equation that's terrifying. Inventory levels at some suppliers have already dropped from 15 weeks down to 2. The buffer is gone, and we are running on fumes. So let's talk about the numbers. What does this look like for your wallet? We are already seeing the effects. In late 2024, a standard 16GB DDR5 chipset cost the manufacturer about $24. As of this week, the spot price has hit $27 and is climbing daily. That doesn't sound like much, but by the time it reaches you after packaging, distribution, and retail markup, that's a massive hike. We're seeing 32GB DDR5 kits that used to be $95 creeping up towards $200. Some analysts predict that we could see a 50 to 100% price increase on consumer RAM by mid-2026. This kills the budget build. If you're building a $600 PC, you can't afford to spend $250 on that memory. You might just be entering a weird timeline where buying a pre-built PC from Dell or HP is actually cheaper than building it yourself. Simply because those big companies have long-term contract for RAM that you don't, and you can't access as a consumer. So is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Unfortunately, not anytime soon. SK Hynix has stated they don't expect the shortage to ease until late 2027 or 2028. That is when their new foundries are scheduled to come online, and until then, the industry is going to be in a squeeze. We might just see some smaller, niche Chinese manufacturers trying to fill the void left by Crucial, but their capacity is a drop in the bucket compared to what Micron was producing. For the next 2 years, the reality is stark. RAM is going to be a luxury component. The days of casually throwing in 64GB of RAM just cuz is over. Micron closing the Crucial division is more than just a brand disappearing. It's a signal that the tech industry shifted its priorities. And you, the gamer, the creator, and the PC builder are no longer the priority. AI is. If you need RAM, my advice is simple. Do it now. Don't wait for a sale. Don't wait for a price drop. The age of cheap memory is officially dead. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this. Are you panic buying RAM right now, or are you going to try to ride out the storm with what you have? Let me know in the comments below. Stay subscribed because I'm tracking these prices very closely over the next few months. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.